So I kept wondering, who influences the influencers? And it turns out that the influencers themselves, so momfluencers, are influenced by their own followers. And this can create what's called a radicalization loop.
As in, their own followers who watch their content can make the influencers themselves become more extreme?
Exactly.
Okay.
So in parenting online spaces, you see these interactions that are very combative. So you'll post a video, and then underneath the video, you'll see sort of extreme sides. For example, you might have people have extreme views on sleep training.
Yeah.
Like even as not a mom, I am aware that people have very strong views on
Oh, God, it feels
sleep
like on
training.
every aspect of parenting.
Yeah,
And this
true.
is like what we were saying earlier about the conflicting advice on social media. Like there's like camps about what you should do.
Exactly. So underneath, for example, a video on sleep training, people might dig in their heels into their side, saying you should definitely let kids cry and self-soothe, or you should definitely intervene and go into the room and not let them cry themselves to sleep. And so what you have, though, is that you get these polarizing views, because also all you see is the people with the most extreme views who are commenting.
Yeah, and then it gets the engagement and the likes and pushes it to the top. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that also gets the influencers. And so when the influencers themselves feel criticized or backed into a corner on their life choices, they can actually become more entrenched in their views as well. So if an influencer posts something that's kind of outrageous, they will have the same thing happening, that some of the followers will not realize that they're maybe descending into these more extreme views. And because no matter how extreme the influencer's views are, someone online is going to agree with them. And it takes away this grounding to reality and pushes them further and further into their own rabbit hole of radicalization. And it's these baby steps into more extreme views.
Yeah, and that, I think, is what started to happen here, really, because there were warning signs, and they weren't subtle ones, really. I'm talking like big, great neon Las Vegas style flashing warning signs in the Franke family YouTube channel, which is called 8 Passengers. Mum of 6, Ruby Franke, drops films 5 days a week at 6 a.m. And in these videos, she shows kind of like every aspect of their wholesome brood's life. You know, she shows the homeschooling, the cooking, the eating, the chatting. Ruby is like very disciplined in her approach to things, and you know that gives her that big appeal. People want to hear from her, and I guess that's the nature of these momfluencers, that they're informative for people. She would do these things like withhold food as a way of kind of controlling and disciplining her kids. And I remember seeing this like video of her holding like this little blue stuffed animal that must, I don't know, belong to like one of her kids, and then threatening that she's going to cut its head off, and the kid gets quite visibly upset, like bursts into tears.
So it's the emotional distress of cutting off the head of the cuddly toy and also posting it online, almost as if you're proud of the fact that you made your kid cry.
Yeah, and what you said about the sort of feedback loop, the radicalization loop, could it be because it caused such a visceral reaction in the child that makes a social media moment as well?
Right, and she'd have loads of people probably saying, great job.
Yeah.
And she would take that as proof that she's doing a good job and do more of it.
Yeah, and it's how somebody like Ruby could end up believing in her own methods,
Absolutely.
even as they are becoming like so extreme and illegal. At one point, her 14-year-old son is banned from being able to go into his bedroom for 7 months, by the way. Not like a weekend grounding, but 7 months. And he has to sleep on a beanbag in the family room just because he played a practical joke on his little brother. Where is the line between what is rigorous and sort of disciplined parenting and what is abuse?
So that depends. So child abuse is when anyone under the age of 18 is either being harmed or not properly looked after. So that's the legal sort of construct. And in this case, it sounds like the abuse is psychological. So making him sleep on a beanbag and being out of his room, that is a psychological form of abuse, probably. So for example, if the treatment has the effect of making him feel inadequate, so that's a form of abuse, worthless, unloved, these are all signs of abuse, then it would count as it. But there doesn't seem to be evidence of physical abuse, or neglect, as it's called. Although, if the treatment of sleeping outside of his own room means that he's not getting enough sleep, so she's depriving him of sleep, then it would also be neglect.